I'm just an ordinary man doing ordinary reviews.
I know what's going through your mind right now. You're searching for meaning in all of this.
If you guys are wondering why I'm doing the Unbreakable review, well then you probably haven't watched Split or you don't understand the ending to Split. So with that said, spoilers up ahead for both the Unbreakable movie and for the ending of Split. Also, you can check out my Split review on my channel. I'll make sure to leave the link down in the description. So this movie came out in 2000 and is directed by M. Night Shyamalan. And I don't even know where to begin with this movie. I love this movie and it's one of the most underrated films that I've known. Like, not a lot of people know about this movie, and I could tell by watching Split, and the reaction of the crowd was just like, what? Like you know, some people just didn't get that ending. M. Night Shyamalan's directing in this movie is amazing. His directing, production, editing, and writing of this film is just great. Both Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson gave phenomenal performances in this movie. David Dunn is just an ordinary man who finds himself in a train, coming back from an interview, I believe, and then out of nowhere he wakes up in a hospital and they tell him that, hey, you know, you are the only survivor in this train accident, but you don't have any scratches or you have no fractured bones or anything like that. Just freaking crazy. Like, nobody knows what happened to him and why he's so in perfect condition. But unlike David Dunn, Elijah is the complete opposite of him. Elijah literally has the frame of glass, like his nickname, Mr. Glass. His bones and like frame structure can easily be broken by any kind of accident, and this is a real disease in real life. Now Elijah's character is very interesting because he's so into comic books, and that was his escape when he was a kid, because as he had this disease, he wasn't able to do many things as far as, like, you know, going outside, being with other kids or playing with other kids. So he always went back to comic books, and his life is based around comic books. He's like a huge comic book nerd, and he makes his money by selling comic book art, like really good art too. So after finding out about David, he confronts him, asking him, like, you know, hey, have you ever been sick? And David Dunn's like, what the fuck? Like, what do you mean, have I ever been sick? And that kind of hits him. It's like, oh shit, I don't think I've ever been sick, or I've never broken a bone in my body. And after the train wreck, David has no clue why or what is happening to him. He really doesn't understand why he survived that. Like, he's like, what the hell? I should have been dead. Like, everybody else died except him. We understand so much from his opening scene in the train itself. Like, we see the camera pan from left to right as a lady sits next to him. And this is funny because when she sits next to him, she's very attractive, and he like takes off his ring. And I'm like, you dog, come on, man, don't do that. But it's so good. Like, you learn so many things from him, and we even learn his weakness. Now, the relationship between David and Elijah, or David his wife, or Elijah and David's wife, is so good. Like, every scene that they're having a dialogue in is really good. You can tell that Shyamalan worked really, really hard on this script, and it pays off. Especially with the way that he's directing the cameras and the viewing angles is really good, because you can see them in this huge space. Just actors being actors, you know, just acting with a big long script, and then it works so perfect because we get to learn so many things about these characters. Now, one of my favorite scenes is David Dunn's son. They are working out, or well, his son is helping him work out. He's adding weight, and his dad's like, you know, can you take off weight, because that last set was pretty heavy. But the funny thing is, his son, after Elijah like tries to convince his son, like, hey, your dad might have these superpowers, his son secretly starts adding weight onto the plates. And it's funny because, like, at some point, David's like, you know what, just keep adding. And they get creative. Like, they add, like, paint cans at the end of the bar just because they ran out of weights. And in that scene, I think he broke, like, 5 or 6 personal records, which is freaking amazing, because I wish I could do that. Now, another epic scene in this movie was when David finally embraces his power. After Elijah indirectly telling him, like, hey, you know, you need to embrace this power. You have, like, this kind of instinct for visions, or, you know, you can see things without them even happening. You know, like, you need to learn how to control this power. And after, you know, he practices this in a subway, he follows his man in an orange suit, where he sees his vision where he had killed his father and had these 2 kids captive, and he goes after him trying to save them. Now, what's really good about this is the way it leads up to it. Everything is intense, and the score itself makes everything so much intense. Like, it's crazy how good this scene was. Obviously, Dunn wins, and then before that, we have a scene where he like kind of falls in a pool, and it's kind of like where his origin is born, because he comes out of the water almost dead, but he comes out a hero. And also, we get like that symbolic like Superman moment where he has like the cape or whatever but in his case it's like a raincoat, which is kind of funny but cool at the same time because it's so like typical. It's like, oh, I was just out in the rain, minding my own business, just saving the day. Now the twist to this movie, although Shyamalan gave us a really, really good twist in The Sixth Sense, a lot of people were expecting it for this movie. And now the thing is, it's not expecting it, it's the way he delivers it. And it's so good because the whole time he has us like wondering, like, like what's the whole point? Like that's the whole thing. Like what was the whole point of this movie? And guess what? We find out that this is a superhero origin story. And we find out in the end that the big bad villain was Elijah himself. This whole time Elijah was planning these catastrophes, like just killed so many people just trying to find out if there was anybody else at the end of the spectrum, trying to find someone opposite of him, which was David. And he does, which is crazy because he murdered so many people because of that. Now, unlike this ending, this is where we get into the ending to Split, because in Split we see David Dunn. A lot of people in the theater were like, what's Bruce Willis doing in this movie? And I was like, what? And it didn't click until I read the name tag saying Dunn. And I was like, what? Then he names Mr. Glass. And I was like, oh my God, this is from Unbreakable. If you guys remember in Split, there's a scene where Kevin leaves a bouquet of flowers on the ground at the train station. Now, if you guys remember, Elijah is the one that caused that train wreck. Meaning that Kevin's mother boarded that same train that David was on. And guess what? Elijah caused the death of Kevin's mother, therefore making him a supervillain. Now, we don't know if there's going to be an Unbreakable 2. There are talks from M. Night Shyamalan in interviews saying that, he does want to make a sequel, or I guess the third part of this movie, which will be great because we'll get to see David go up against the Horde, which will be freaking awesome. But guys, as I said, this movie was very well directed, very well acted. Everything about this movie was fantastic. I could not nitpick anything about this movie. I think the pacing was great. The delivery to the ending itself was so good, and it paid off very well. So I'm going to give Unbreakable a perfect 5. Now, obviously, if you guys haven't seen Split, make sure to check out my review. It's spoiler free. If you guys did watch this review, then I'm sorry because I spoiled a lot of things, but you should have read the warning at the beginning, so you're bad. Make sure to check this movie out if you're watching Split. Let me know what you guys think about maybe them making a new Unbreakable movie with David and the Horde. That'd be super crazy. So if you guys like this video, make sure to share and like it. Also subscribe to my channel to stay up to date with what I post. The next video I might post is The Mummy, since we're getting a Mummy remake with Tom Cruise. So until next time, guys, stay tuned.